with that, I'm handing the magic wand to you, April.
Thanks, John.
And let me just say a little bit about Guardian, because probably made the earliest and biggest investment in working with builders of all of the security integration firms out there years ago with the acquisition of Ranger American, which was the company that did the structured wiring CAN installation in all of the South. And you guys,
quite a few branches, for sure.
you guys made a great play right around the time the building market was cratering, and you bought that entity and really established the footprint and foundation for what you've been doing with builders for years. But that was kind of visionary on Bill Graham's part and Russ Sursasimo's part, and everyone smiles when they say Russ Sursasimo's name.
It never disappoints.
Entertaining character. Anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, John.
Yep.
Like John said, I'm April Maloney, Vice President of Sales at Guardian. And yes, Guardian seems like they've been in the builder business since the beginning of time. But we are fortunate enough that we have 10 branch locations with brick and mortar, and had the path paved for us acquiring Ranger American. I think it was 2008. I'm looking to my friends over there. And so that sort of put us on the map, and then we kept it going and replicated that in all of our own branches. So we work, just round numbers with, I used to say about 130 builders. Guardian had just made a recent acquisition, if anybody recognizes the name of Vintage Security. They were in the Maryland, DC area. And so that's really helped us with density, and they were strictly low voltage integrator with monitored security. So we acquired about 75 builders through them in a really small condensed space. They do a little more semi-custom, custom work. So while it sounds like a lot of builders, some of them only have a couple houses a year, but that's really good for us and good for them that they have that sort of signature line in the semi-custom world.
Yeah.
When John asked me to speak on the profitability for builders with smart technology, this is what we do, and this is how we go to market and try to create value for builders. And so my team's over here, and they help me with some of these slides and just the things we say all the time when we're prospecting or trying to talk to builders. But there's a lot of myths, right? So technology is not a priority. We completely disbelieve that. We believe that it's the exact time that home buyers that are building want technology while their walls are open. It's the perfect opportunity for them to purchase it themselves. The builders don't have to do standards. People who want to have the perfect home in their perfect new build, they're willing to invest in that, especially from a technology perspective. And then the myth that home buyers want DIY. So the challenge with DIY is that we have to compete in the space. It's out there. But even in our strategy plan, we believe that there's a strong desire for professionally installed smart home technology. Sort of let the people who are good at it do it the right way. And then this is probably one that we get at us all the time. It's what the obstacle that we have to overcome. Electrical contractors can do the work cheaper. We don't need low voltage integrators. We have an electrician. When he's on site, we'll have the electrician do it. This probably is the one that's the most sensitive for us. And it's probably true to a certain aspect. If you're just saying the basics, are the basics cheaper if you're going to have the electrician do it? But integrators can sell additional option items to your home buyers, and we can install those options, and that's where you get some really meaningful revenue and profit. And the electricians, they just don't want to be in that business. They're not trying to be salespeople. They're electricians, and that's what they do really well.
Yeah. Let me just interject for 1 second there. I think we've had a session where we've talked about this on the back end. The support is like, you tend to look at your integrators for what are they technically capable of, but you also have to look at these soft skills of assessing needs, of selling, of training, of supporting, in addition to those technical skills, right? And that's where the typical electrical contractor really falls down. They don't have those soft skills to present a range of options or really identify those needs.
I'm not even sure it's the space they want to be in.
Yeah.
They're two totally different spaces. Listen, we all need an electrician. I lobby all the time, maybe we should get an electrical side because then everybody would meet with us. So you need them. You definitely need them. But you'd need to fold it in with an integrator to be able to deliver what a company like Guardian can deliver.
Yep.
And then just smart home technology is not profitable. I mean, it couldn't be further from the truth. As I work through it, I just want to share some sort of, we call them the headline numbers on just how much we pay to different size builders, whether it's high volume, luxury end, and just our overall numbers and what we end up paying back to builders in rebates that we created revenue for. So John and I went round and round, but we went round and round. But we broke it into a couple things, and I like where you went with it. My coworker Rich is in the audience. He took it in a similar direction, and so the theme is you have to be with the right partner to do this. You have to be able to sell the right products, and you have to have the right process. And if you do those, it can create the profitability. And so we believe what partners drive success. Maybe just even speaking what you said about the electricians, and it's not a knock on any of my electrician friends. Like I said, we all need them, but you have to find a partner who understands relationships and partnerships. We have different segments, not just the builder business at Guardian. And we say so many times in boardroom meetings or other places when we're talking about people we do business with, it has to work for both sides. That's a partnership, not just when someone says, I need you to do this for the lowest cost and blah, 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 and pushes it down on you. It has to work for both sides, or you have to walk away and it doesn't work. But so that's where we really believe in relationships and talking about how can we create value through our partnerships. But true partners in this space, you have to find somebody who has the capacity to handle a production schedule. They have to understand your business. We talk a lot. There's probably not that many integrators of Guardian size that are left out there that do what we do. There are a couple, and they do them really well. They're not all national players, so that can be tricky. But it just isn't anybody. I'll hear somebody who I'll hear go, we're getting in the dealer business or in the builder business. You are? So we just know the back end process. Somebody has to understand your business, and they have to have the infrastructure to meet your needs, from a production schedule to change orders, to PO processes, to having trucks that can show up on time in between the trades that they need to show up for.
Yeah, it's kind of the Hippocratic oath, do no harm situation, right?
True.
Yeah.
True. And then, a good partner wants to be involved in the sales process, and they understand your sales process. That we want to maximize opportunities to increase home buyer satisfaction, and we want to be able to drive builder revenue. The best way that we can do that is when we can get in front of those customers and sell the options that they want to buy from us so that we can create that profitability for the builders. The one thing, and it maybe is a little out of order, but we really understand a good integrator is really going to understand your sales process and value the customer experience. It's another obstacle that we have to overcome, in that we understand that nobody wants their sales process disrupted. Nobody wants it to be a reflection on them if they put a tricky trade or a tricky integrator in front of somebody, right? It's a reflection on the person that has that initial sale. Guardian's been in the builder program for a long time. We have our own basic customers. We have our own central station that monitors security customers. We have 250,000 customers that we hold on to. So we value that as well, and we care about them, and we want them to stay. So we understand the value in customer experience and customer satisfaction.
And when you say you understand the builder's sales process, you mean the 15, 20 different sales processes are out there, right? I mean, this is like, there's not one process. I think that's one of the mistakes these people who say, I'm going to do builder business make, is they think there's one process and one program. And I have described the home building market as the most heterogeneous market on the planet. So you have to be able to deal with the variety, right?
So if I say we have 200 builders now with our recent acquisition, there's a good chance we have 180 different programs. They're shaking their heads. I mean, and that's okay, but you have to understand that, and you have to know that. You have to be able to have an infrastructure to manage those different pricing schedules, who sees what. It's not something you can.
Capacity for complexity, right?
You do. And then the other thing from what drives success from a partnership is just effective communication and transparency. So we have regional builder managers in all of our areas. They sit down, they provide results on a community level, a parent level, area level, however the builders need to see it for their higher ups and what they need to deliver. And we share everything. We call it a sort of a skinny trend file, but that's just because it's builder facing, and we're trying to make it, in their terms of what's important to them. But we're open. We want, the rooftops that you share, we want to give them back to you. We want to show you how much we sold. We want to show you how much revenue we created for you. We actually want to show you how well we're selling. And if you were to put us in front of more people, that it will just make you more. We're just trying to always be like, hey, here's what the business is, whether you call it a business overview or just sort of that transparency and reporting. But it really helps create growth when both people understand.
What's the frequency on that? Is it like a quarterly deal or monthly or what?
I think it really depends on the builder, but I mean, our teams, we attend all the sales and production meetings, but to have really sit down like a quarterly meeting and talk about the business, it's probably more on that cadence of quarterly.
Okay.
Any questions from anybody? I don't want to jump ahead if there are any.
When do we deliver our checks?
Quarterly at the review time.
Okay.
In person. Good question.
In person.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about just our process as well, because it's one of the P's that's real significant in the profitability. Our process at Guardian is to create as much value for both of us, builder and an integrator in Guardian, and also increase as much customer satisfaction as possible. We want to create the opportunity for them to get everything that they want in their home when the walls are open. And just, the handoff between the builder and an integrator like Guardian really helps with that. You can see in the pictures, right, that, we're obviously there through the whole construction phase. We understand time constraints in the sales process and how to meet those and how quickly we have to get in front of home buyers to make their selections and do mortgage roll-ins. So again, it's not something somebody can just snap their finger and get into and then, create profitability and satisfaction. So from a process standpoint, and again, I'm probably jumping around, so some of this I may have said, it's extremely important for builders to be involved in the planning and the pricing of the options that you would want an integrator to sell to your customers. From home networking, I mean, it's so big these days from a technology perspective, all the way through smart home and convenience and the ability to drive everything to one app. I don't want to steal Madison's slides, but the ability, I keep equating smart home technology to convenience and people's likeness to want to be as convenient as possible. That they want to touch one button at the end of the night that locks their doors and turns their lights off, and if an animal runs on their back porch, it will notify them, and all of the possible things that it can do, as well as all the behind the wall stuff from whole home audio in the rooms that you want it to heavy networking. I mean, just if we think where we've gone to have work from home and cyber school things, and just whether you're not working from home during the day, people are signing on at night and streaming, and it's just, don't miss the opportunity for your home buyers to have the opportunity to set it up the way that they want. And in them paying for it, it creates revenue for the builders. And then, I mentioned this a little bit, but prepping the builder sales team to provide the basic education and arrange an educated handoff, just understanding the value, right? Rich, you use a couple examples. We have a national builder in 2 locations. The handoff with one is amazing. They're like, you have to meet with Guardian. You don't want to miss your opportunity. They're going to call you. And at one other one, they're like, oh, you don't really, it's okay. I mean, you're probably short on time. So just this, it creates something completely different. And the education and the sales people with the builder to understand what we do and how much value we can bring as well. It's not all at our levels, right? It's at the levels that they're handing off and talking with those home buyers through their process. And then coordinating to meet sales and construction schedules. We understand that process really, really well. We have a whole sales ops organization. If you're going to get involved with anybody that doesn't say they have that, you should walk away. There's no way to mince words on that. It's a heavy lift for integrators, and they have to be prepared. And then structuring post-occupancy activations or post-close. So that's something that's really changed, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 years, with builders putting some standards in automation devices, and that can create some revenue on the back end as well with additional security activations when people move into the homes. It's not just on front end options. So whatever your program looks like, or wherever you want to be able to create revenue, there's different ways to go at it. So, don't be afraid to just bring up like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. And then make sure, somebody is meeting with you. It's valuable. You're putting your customers in front of someone else and you're allowing them to be in your sales process. They should be able to feed that information back to you with just open transparency. And if something isn't working, they should be able to pivot or be able to provide suggestions and things that they've seen work with other builders in other areas. And if they're the experts, they see this with other programs, they should be able to guide you a little bit to get you where you need to be or what you were thinking from a revenue perspective.
Good stuff.
So just to touch on some of the products, I break them into categories. This is just how we go to market. But I have the average markup and average rebate that we pay with security options. So for an example, security system. That's security system and all smart devices, from thermostat to lock to water valves to video devices. When we sell that to the customer, to the home buyers, generally what we see is a 30% markup, and that creates revenue back to the builders in that process.
That's what I would call a smart home security system because it's got those
Completely
other
connected.
basic automation features. Yeah.
And completely connected.
Yeah.
The value in it is for them to be able to connect everything into one app where they can see all of their things and create all rules and notifications and all types of things. That's the convenience of smart home.
In the pricing, the margin there at 30% is a little lower than the others because it needs to be competitive with some of the other stuff that people are seeing in the.
We have to compete with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah. So you can't have some big margin that really prices it way out of whack with what somebody sees.
If you
online.
sit down with a home buyer and they see prices and they think, well, I don't have to buy that right now. I could buy that later. I know it probably doesn't cost that. So there's some balance in here on how you price it, sort of back to my slide before on prepping and planning of you have to keep it balanced.
Yeah. But people want this, and if a builder abdicates that opportunity, they get none of the money, and they don't really satisfy the consumer either at the same time.
Correct. And then structured wiring is, a little bit more of a markup, and home audio, full home theater, a little bit of a higher markup as well, because you have the opportunity to. If they're going to go get a different contractor to do that after the fact, that's not as much of an apples to apples comparison as trying to shop security and home automation after the fact.
Are you able to sell speaker upgrades? Are you able to get people in to demo speaker upgrades? Because that's where the margin is in the audio, right? Those speaker upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do more of that.
What were we just calling it? Serious. Are you a serious listener?
Who isn't?
Are you a serious listener? Right. So not necessarily good, better, best, but are you a serious listener?
Oh, yeah.
My husband.
The good,
thinks
better,
he
best
paid
is
for
the
that.
marketing terminology. Serious is more consumer centric. Good thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then monitoring rebates. So obviously, true partnerships, we have to both have a side that creates value for us. And so, we're hoping that the customers opt to get home security professionally monitored. And when we get that, then we pay a per unit monitoring rebate. And that's whether they took that pre-construction or whether they took that after they were in their home. We treat that whole builder program holistically. So whenever they decide to partner with Guardian, we would pay that rebate back. And then I just gave some.
That's one where an educated handoff could help too, right? Like there's a lot
Sure,
of
for sure.
monitoring guilt out there, thanks to Jamie Siminoff and Ring telling everybody that monitoring fees are the devil incarnate, right? This is how you finance a good long-term customer experience. Not only how you finance it, but how you have the technical tethering to that system to really understand what's going on and to service it. So let's figure out how there can be some basic education about that stuff so it doesn't sound like it's just somebody being taken for a ride.
And there's a trust factor in that if the builder is willing to put an integrator in front of their home buyer, there's a trust factor from the person that's buying to say, I'm more likely to buy right now. I have more, they're putting me in front of it. These are the selections that I have.
Yep.
So sort of back to that partnership piece. And just I gave the latest take rates that we have when we sit down with the customers from a security structured
So you
wiring.
mean people actually want this stuff?
They do.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised. Go ahead.
So just a little on Guardian. I mentioned it already. I put the slide on here, but then I jumped the gun on just Guardian's stake in the game for we value the customer experience. We own our own central station. We have over 250,000 customers, 10 branch locations. We're a diamond central station. We've won Central Station of the Year a couple times. I mean, I just always say best in class. I mean, if we do something well, it's this and low voltage. And I always say, well, that's good because those are probably two of the most important things. But we monitor the customers at Guardian, and just speaks to that we really care about these customers. So video surveillance, hope you don't use the same slide. Okay. So all of the people want cameras. I mean, there's no better way to say it. We also, at Guardian, we have an inside sales group that takes calls from our marketing, spend, and 9 times out of 10, if you pull a call, people want cameras. And they preferred hardwired cameras. It's gonna communicate and connect better, so that's the opportunity when the walls are open. And with video analytics, so the ability to know that who came and went, car, person, animal, to be notified. I mean, just my back camera, I have it set up between 12 and 6 for any animal because it shouldn't be back there. And if I see something in the morning where it tells me something's there, I'm like, what's there? So just, people want to see whatever they want to see. But they want to see their kids come home, they want to see their packages delivered. This is what people want. Don't miss the boat on any video devices, whether it's a video doorbell with, two-way capacity to talk, whether it's something to notify you of who's on your property. People want video, for sure.
So one of the great things about the technology industry is when over time you get way more performance for your dollar. Here's a category where the cameras that are available for a couple $1,000s that would fully outfit a lot of homes would have been $25,000 15 years ago. Literally. Analytics was, whoa, over the top. All these cameras, you had low definition cameras probably would have been 25,000. So it's just the value, and people want it, and the value is absolutely there, right?
We should have showed a live feed. We should have showed live feed.
Next time.
Okay, next time. All right, next time. And I mean, I'll go over this quickly. Just don't miss the opportunities. They want to design stuff behind the walls when the walls are open. I mean, don't miss the opportunity. But this is probably closest to everybody in the room. And then the whole home audio, which I spoke about already. So with the right partnership, with the right process, with the right products, how much smart home profitability can you create? So these are just round numbers. We pulled them from our last quarter's rebate report. Again, a lot of builders. So if you take it over, and I probably don't even have vintage folded in here, so you take it over 125, 135, about $519 average rebate per rooftop. So whatever you're putting in as standards, you can offset it even with that amount of rebate.
And there's no upfront investment to get to that yield, right? I mean,
only to say you want to be with Guardian.
The time, and yeah, but there's not a dollar investment up front that's required with that, okay?
No, I mean, the investment is the partnership, right? The investment for that to work, the investment is you have to say, I trust Guardian, I've done my research, and I would feel comfortable putting them in front of my home buyers in the process.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the investment.
Yep.
And so just some other, we took the same quarterly report and said, like, hey, for the high volume builders, how much did we pay to them on average? So that's an average, that's a per builder in the quarter of what we paid to high volume builders. And then same thing for what we would consider our luxury or semi-custom, what we paid to those builders. Obviously, it's a lot less rooftops when you get in front of them, but likelihood to buy.
I'm not good at math, but 4 quarters is 60,000. A quarter is $250,000.
It's a lot of money. Right? I mean, I just headline numbers. I mean, I brought the rebate report form. Can't necessarily put it up there with the names on there, but I mean, just for round numbers, and this is the fourth quarter. We paid $675,000 back to builders. Now again, 135 builders, all doing different number of rooftops, all have a different process with Guardian and how much they're willing to put us in front of their customers and the types of homes, right? You guys all know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know, there are people building homes that have a big pocketbook to buy, and then there's high volume that maybe they don't have as much, but they still do buy. I mean, the top one on our list is a high volume builder in San Antonio. We pay more than the $60,000. I mean, it's a lot. So when you have, and they have a really good partnership with us and a really good process. So when you see how it works, you can see it come together, and you can really see the value, and you're always trying to navigate it to make sure that you can create the right amount of value for everybody.
Good.
So in summary, you know, the right partner will drive significant revenue to builders. The right process will maximize the revenue, and the right products will increase the customer satisfaction and will create a lot of revenue for builders. So yes, there's profitability in smart home.
Good to hear. Let's hear what the builder thinks, the Greek chorus on the other side. Alan, tell us a little bit more about Homebound and your role before you jump in with your hot take.
Okay, I've been preparing for this hot take now for. No, just kidding.
Suspense is
So
building up.
Homebound is a national home builder. We got our start in 2018 as a response to a need to rebuild after the devastating wildfires in Northern California. So that was our first really inset into home building, was to rebuild volume production homes in areas that were affected by natural disaster. We did move down the coast of California and entered Southern California after that. And our third market that we entered was the Bahamas. Our CEO is actually very not specific as far as where we go. So Bahamas was devastated by Hurricane Dorian, and we rebuilt after Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas, and then we jumped into Texas. And Texas was not a natural disaster market. It was a affordable housing disaster market. So we opened up in Austin, and then Houston and Dallas. We also jumped into Colorado after the wildfires in northern Denver, and then over into Fort Myers Beach after Hurricane Ian. So we kind of focus on rebuilding after natural disasters, production building. Basically, we don't rebuild the home that was destroyed, but we give them a home quickly on property that they already own for the most part. It's very different than the production home builder who develops their own land in a community and builds the homes, and they're still owning the land. So basically our homes are already sold for the most part by the people who own the land. So it's a very different business model. Before that, I did work in the national production home building industry for 20 years, and I wanted to try something different and try to make Homebound the largest home builder in the world, which is our aspiration here. And,
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty,
That's a BHAG.
the mission is
Big, hairy, audacious
to
goal.
provide a home for anybody, anywhere. So it's basically it's a tech-oriented home builder. We design our own software for managing the building of the home, and everything behind the scenes is all done by our own proprietary software. So that's a little introduction about Homebound.
What do you think of
My take on
April's
Guardian.
profitability?
I feel like I'm on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
Are you
right.
gonna take it or are you not gonna take it?
I mean, obviously, this primarily comes from my experience working with production home builders and the purchasing capacity, and you know, I think that you have to understand who your target buyer is. And one of the things you mentioned is there's like 200 different ways that programs, and that's probably because there's at least 200 different types of buyers. And historically, builders have focused on specific clients for specific types. You know, you have your luxury custom home builders, and you have your starter home builders. Homebound does everything, by the way, from build for rent to high-end multi-million-dollar luxury homes. So we have to kind of orient our program at Homebound towards different types of buyers as well. And you talk about meeting with buyers. Well, with today's interest rates, a lot of people are not buying dirt. They're buying completed specs, kind of like, hey, now is now a good time to go ahead and buy the home. So those decisions as to what goes into the home behind the walls has to be made by the builder, not by the customer, because there is no customer. So then it becomes like so important for the builder to understand the customer. And from my perspective, if the builder's like determining what type of flooring or what type of countertops goes in the home, then they also need to determine what type of home automation needs to go in the home. Same way. You're not going to try to put the top tier home automation package in the home that also gets level 0 flooring.
Right.
So they have the customer has to, or the builder has to understand what their target customer is, and I think that's like the key to being successful.
I think it's a good point on the spec. We've certainly seen a shift in that, just even since, I would say since COVID, and I hate to use COVID as an excuse, but it did change a lot of things, and so we have seen that. The company that we acquired, Vintage, they actually do a better job than Guardian does today in getting with the builder to build out those specs and give different packages. So we're hoping to learn a little bit from them and adopt some of their practices, because, you know, we used to say was, you know, 10 or 20% spec. I mean, it's much higher, and it's certainly much higher in areas. So we don't want to just, we don't want to just do low voltage work without any other opportunities, or opportunities even to meet with them post-close. So when the builders are putting smart home technology in as standards, even in specs, and we can help design, again, whatever the serious listening is for the levels of spec, you know, that helps at the back end for conversion and creating a monitoring rebate.
Yep.